Hi everyone, this is Brotman The Recovery Coach. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to read and answer some questions that I've gotten from viewers or visitors to my web pages. The first question I have is from JS from Boca Raton, Florida. Roy, what is the difference between a drug counselor and a recovery coach? That's a great question. A drug counselor is either a professional, a certified professional in many cases, or a psychologist, psychiatrist, nurse, who generally is associated with some type of drug treatment facility, either an inpatient facility, a residential facility, a partial care facility, or even an outpatient, an IOP program. And they work to help you recover from drugs. They have in most cases, they have different specialities that they specialize in. And they typically work with a center. Some of them work independently, and there's many different types of drug specialists out there today. And I know some common on the East Coast, as I mentioned, is drug counselors and certified professionals, psychologists. On the West Coast, there's a little, they have a little bit more flow. There's something called a spiritual coach or a spiritual counselor, nutritional counselors, acupuncturists, and things like that. And they all either, in some cases they work independently, but most of them work for some type of drug treatment center or drug treatment program. The difference is a recovery coach works for the client, works for the recovering person with an alcohol or a drug disuse or misuse problem. We work hand in hand to help the client make the proper decisions of what type of program to go into, what types of aftercare programs to follow. And they work as a mentor and a companion for that person through their recovery, and recovery typically lasts forever, to help them make choices, to help them make smart choices as they change their life from someone that was dependent on drugs or alcohol to someone that's free from drug or alcohol abuse. I hope I answered the question properly. The next question from WP, also in Boca Raton, Florida. Was what precipitated you to go into coaching? That's also a pretty good question. I'm in recovery, and I'll be in recovery forever. I started a long time ago smoking pot. Well, probably drinking earlier than anything. I mean, I used to hit my parents' alcohol closet when I was 14 or 15 years old. I didn't really like alcohol. I started smoking pot right after high school. And quite frankly, I never thought that pot was a problem, and I probably resisted people that asked me at some point to stop smoking. Back then, I probably smoked for about 30 or 35 years, on and off, mostly on. And the last step was when I hurt my back and developed sciatica and started to see a pain management doctor. And this is a common story, especially in the opioid crisis. I started taking a lot of opioids. I'm allergic to aspirin, I'm allergic to ibuprofen, all those types of drugs. I can't take antidepressants and all the types of drugs that are typically given to you in lieu of opioids. I couldn't take. I ended up in the hospital a couple of times with an anaphylaxis. So my only alternative back then was opioids. And after about 7 or 8 years, while they weren't a problem as far as my performance in work or things like that, they did become a problem with my life. I had one incident that kind of turned everything around, where I was prescribed the medication by my doctor, who was actually still my pain management doctor, and I didn't take it as appropriate, and it floored me. It knocked me out, knocked me for a loop. It was a medication that had oxycodone in it, had 9 milligrams of oxycodone, and I had been taking Percocet, 10 milligrams of Percocet, so I thought, 9 milligrams is nothing. Not right. I took it, as I said, I didn't take it as prescribed. I took it without food, and this specifically said, please, you have to take it with food, the same amount of food all the time. And I basically had a lost weekend. I had 3 days that my friends, my family, and my neighbors completely lost touch with me. They came to my house. I was speaking gibberish and just laying there like the typical junkie, which I don't like to call myself because I never really had an issue with these medications. But this was the straw that broke the camel's back when when I finally decided that, hey, I have to stop doing this. So, as far as now, that's the long background story, but I decided that I have to pay it forward. I became a recovery coach, a life coach specializing in recovery, in order to help people go through what I've learned the hard way. And if I can make it any easier for people that are in the same situation that I'm in, I'm willing to do that. And one more question, and I'll answer more questions throughout the subsequent videos, but here's the third question. What are some of the differences between 12-step recovery programs and non-12-step recovery programs? So that's pretty straightforward, but I appreciate the question. 12-step programs are basically religious or pseudo-religious types of programs where you have to, you have to be following a supreme being, whoever that is, God, the magnet in the sky, whatever you want to call it. But you kind of say that you have no power over your addictions or your alcoholism or your problems, and I throw everything to this supreme being, and only he can help me. The 12 steps, and I'm not going to go into what the 12 steps are, but they start with acknowledging that you have a problem, either a drug or an alcohol problem. They lead up to apologizing to everybody that you've hurt. And quite frankly, I don't think that's a bad thing. Everybody should make amends with people that they've hurt, especially through their drug or alcohol problems. And leading through to, when the time it is that you won't take a drug or an alcohol anymore. Now, non-step programs, and I'm familiar with Smart Recovery, which is the non-12-step program that I kind of follow. That's more of a scientific problem. They use psychology and things like REBT and programs like writing cost-benefit analysis, doing role-playing, things like that, in order to, there's a bunch of tools out there, a bunch of tools, and many of them are used, not everybody doesn't use every tool, but they're available to you if you think that particular specific tool will help you. But the one thing that's kind of different about the 12-step and the non-12-step programs, especially the SMART program, is something that's called crosstalk. When you go to a 12-step meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous specifically, or Narcotics Anonymous, NA or AA, you're expected to listen to people speaking. They're making basically testimonials about how alcohol hurt them or drugs hurt them, and telling about what happened from the day they started drinking or drugging to the day they found whomever to stop using. And that's all well and good, and you hear some stories that are quite captivating. But the 12 steps are more round robin and crosstalk type of things. So, we talk to each other, and if we have a suggestion that might help the person that has the specific problem that week, we advise, not really advise them, but we share our experiences with our compatriots that are in the program with us. Quite frankly, I'm a facilitator for a Smart Recovery program in Florida, and I have found that the answer to my drug, not craving, but to my problems. I find the fellowship that's involved with the program to be fantastic. I look forward to these meetings every week. I still attend 2 Smart Recovery programs every week, and in addition, I follow a second program, which is called Heart of Recovery, which is a Shambhala meditation program, also for recovery. Also not a 12-step, where we do meditation, we do a reading, we talk about different aspects of either recovery or meditation and things to help, and also a fellowship type thing. Everybody gets to talk and gets to express how they feel, what's been going on, for the last week or so, however long since they've been there. And really, I think the big difference between the 12-step programs and the non-12-step programs, even more than believing in the supreme being or believing that drugs or drugs and alcohol are a disease or not, I think it's more to the fact that people in the non-12-step programs are more likely to have these cross-talk and interaction discussions, and in the 12 steps they're more apt to just have to sit and listen. And I'll say one more thing about what I know, which is smart. If you, God forbid, have a relapse, so God forbid, I'm not a 12-step program, but if you, God forbid, have a relapse in your recovery, and sometimes relapses are part of recovery, and I don't even like to call them relapses, I like to call them lapses, or fallbacks or something like that. You don't have to start back from square one. If you've had a year abstinence to drugs or alcohol, and you have a slip up and you spend 2 or 3 days drinking or drugging, you can't forget about those other 362 days that you spent in abstinence. So, keep sending the questions in. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible and as often as possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, Roy Brotman, the Recovery Coach. I'm here to help you. My phone number and email are in the comments. Please contact me if you have any questions. If I can help you, I'd love to work with you and answer any questions you have. And have a great time. Have a great week. Thank you.